Hey guys, welcome back to Southern Gal True Crime. If this is your first time here, thanks for stopping in and visiting. I hope you stick around. Please hit that subscribe button and check the bell to all notifications so you won't miss any new videos that I upload. I feature missing persons, cold cases, some current true crime in the news, and more. And the majority of the cases that I share and the missing persons are lesser known cases. They don't get the national attention. They're not high profile cases. But I feel that I want to be a voice to share those cases because their stories deserve to be out there. Their names put out there so that they are never forgotten. So check out the playlist, and you might find some cases that maybe you've never heard of. So please check that out. And as you see from the thumbnail, we're going to be discussing a little of Rex Heuermann. And I'm assuming everybody by now knows who Rex Heuermann is. He's not going to be the focus of the whole video, but I've just had some questions regarding him, and that led me to more questions. So I don't want to say that I went down a rabbit hole, maybe just a little bit, but we will get to that shortly. But first, I always feature a current missing person, and get everything going here. And this information comes from neverforgottenarkansas.gov, which is the Arkansas Missing Persons Database. And tonight's featured missing person is Davin Chance Bazell Holmes. Now, he is only 15 years old. He is a black male, 5'7", 120 pounds, with brown eyes and black hair. He went missing on July 26th of this year, so not very long ago, a fresh case. So that's why I wanted to get his information out there quickly. He went missing from Little Rock, Arkansas. I think it says, I couldn't fit it on the screen here, but I think it says he has some tattoos on his right arm. If you have any information about Davin or his disappearance, you can contact the Little Rock Police Department at 501-371-4605. So please like, share, comment on this video. It helps get this information out to more people. I will also put a link to this information in the description box, so please share it anywhere, everywhere. The more people that see it, the better. Okay, so let me back out of this, and we will get to the main case of the night. All right, and you can see here Rex Heuermann and the world's youngest killers. So, like I said, we all know by now who Rex Heuermann is, but if you haven't, just a brief recap. On July 14th, law enforcement on Long Island announced that after a 12-year investigation that they had solved the Gilgo Beach serial offender case. In a news conference, Suffolk County District Attorney Raymond A. Tierney said that authorities had arrested local architect Rex Heuermann and charged him with the killing of 3 women whose remains were found on a parkway close to Gilgo Beach in December of 2010. And he is also the prime suspect in the death of a 4th woman, Maureen Brainerd Barnes. So far, they have not been able to definitively link him to that case through DNA or any other means, but hopefully soon they will be able to make that connection. And the authorities also continue to investigate the killings of at least 7 others whose remains were found nearby, up and down the parkway on Long Island. And at present, they have not indicated that Heuermann is responsible for those deaths. Some professionals, as I call them, former law enforcement, do believe that he is connected to, maybe not all, but more, of I think there was 11 in all that they found on Long Island. So I'm sure they're going to do their best to link him or see if he's connected to them. And if not, hopefully they can find, if he's not the offender in those cases, they will be able to find who is responsible. So in looking at Rex Heuermann, I got to thinking, how old or how young was he when he started killing? Because as of 2023, he's 59 years old. So they found the bodies 10 years ago that he is responsible for. So that would put him mid 40s to late 40s when these killings occurred. And as once again, professionals have said, you don't just wake up in your 40s and decide, hey, I'm going to start, taking people's lives. So that, like I said, that got me to thinking, how young was he when he started killing? Was he in his preteens, a teen, young adult? Is it possible that he could have harmed adolescent, preteen, teenage girls when he himself was a teen or a young adult? And one of my favorite creators that I've watched on here, on one of the shows I was in the chat, I asked that question, if he thought that he could have harmed these younger girls when he was younger, and he said it's entirely possible. So we will probably never know exactly how many victims he has when it's all said and done. But in my opinion, the body count will probably be pretty high, unfortunately. So unless he just decides to spill his guts and tell us his story and his victims, we'll never know. Even if he does decide to open up and talk about it, in my opinion, we still won't know, because the majority of serial offenders are pathological liars. So you can't really trust anything they say. Rex Heuermann was born, and I'm assuming raised in New York. He owns property in New York, Las Vegas, and South Carolina. And they had mentioned that he might have a link to some killings that took place in Atlantic City, New Jersey. But in the last week or so, they have come out and said that they do not think that he is linked to those killings. Another question, where has he traveled? When he was traveling between these various properties that he owns and other places, could he have victims along where he has traveled? My opinion is yes. And I think that's the opinion of a lot of others. I put on here, he was bullied as a teen. I think I remember reading that. I'm not 100% positive. So if anybody knows for sure, leave it in the comments. And I thought it was interesting that most of his victims, or the 3 or 4 that he was linked to, were very petite, and they looked younger than they actually were, which most of them were young. I think they were in their 20s and 30s. Don't know if that has any significance to anything. Just a question that I had. All right, so this brought me to the thought of how old some of the youngest serial offenders there have been. So I looked up, and I believe, I can't exactly remember what article I found this from, I'll find it and put it link to it in the description. So we're going to take a look at 8 of the world's youngest offenders. And some of them, like I said, are serial offenders technically because they had 3 or more victims. And the first one we're going to take a look at is Henry Miguel Robinson. He was 17 years old. He had a, sorry, I'm trying to read. The writing is very small, and I can't see so well anymore. His victims were John Burgott, Charlotte Schmoyer, Jessica Jean Fortney. And he committed these crimes between 1992 and 1993. He was 17 years old when he first assaulted and then took the lives of 3 women in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So that makes him technically a serial offender. He was caught, and this was terrifying to me. He was caught by police who were in search of another woman who had gone missing, and she turned out to be in the car with Robinson when he was stopped, and he had intended to take her back to her home and kill her. So luckily they found him before that happened. In 2006, he was sentenced to death despite his efforts to have his sentence eased on the grounds that he was a juvenile when he committed these heinous acts. The motion was denied, and he is currently awaiting execution. So do we think that Henry Miguel Robinson would have gone on to commit more offenses? My opinion, yes, he would have. He had already taken the lives of 3 women. He was on his way to taking the life of a 4th. So in my opinion, he would, had he not been caught, he would definitely have kept up with his activities. All right, next, number 7 on the list, a female, which is, I'm going to say, rare. There haven't been a lot of female serial offenders. The most popular one is, and her name just went out of my head. Anyway, it'll come to me. But this female is Alyssa Bustamante. She was 15 years old. She killed Elizabeth Olton in 2009. Now, she was 15 years old when she killed her 9-year-old neighbor because she thought it would be amazing to try and a fun thrill. So that right there tells you what my opinion of whether or not she would have continued her activities will be. Though she only had 1 victim, it was uncovered that she had dug up multiple graves, which police suspected were for her younger brothers. Second reason to think that, yes, she, in my opinion, would have gone on to be on her way to being a serial offender. Reason number 3, during her trial, she showed little remorse for her actions. She pleaded guilty to 2nd-degree homicide, and she is currently serving a life sentence with the possibility of parole. Let's hope, in my opinion, she does not get parole because, yes, I think she would go on to become a serial offender. This homicide in particular gained a lot of notoriety because she took the time to document in her diary her emotions prior to and after the killings, and she described it as pretty enjoyable. So I think you would agree with me. Once again, she would have gone on to become a vicious serial offender. And it is a very good thing, in my opinion, that she was caught and she is in jail and hopefully will not be getting out ever. Next, we comes to James Fairweather. He was 15 years old. He took the lives of James Atfield and Naheed Amani between 2014 and 2015. Now, this one is a no-brainer. He, in my opinion, would definitely have gone on to become a serial offender because he had fantasies of becoming a killer. And I find this disturbing. It says even teachers who knew of his ideation didn't believe him until he killed a 33-year-old man with brain damage due to a car accident. And this killing took place in Colchester, Essex, which I'm assuming is in the UK. It disturbs me that these teachers knew. Apparently, he talked about killing people. And as far as I found reading the articles, none of the teachers ever alerted authorities or counselors or anybody. And I find that is just, I don't understand that at all. So after he killed his first victim, 3 months later, he acted again and he killed a 31-year-old Saudi student of the University of Essex. Thankfully, he was apprehended while planning a third killing, and he is sentenced to life imprisonment with a term of 27 years at the minimum. The judge in the case described the killings as brutal and senseless and said that Fairweather had shown no remorse for his actions. So yes, most definitely, in my opinion, he would have gone on to commit more killings and continue being a serial offender. Next, we have Michael Hernandez. He was 14 years old. His victim was Jamie Goff, and he committed his crime in 2004. He was convicted of the killing of his classmate, Jamie Goff, in a bathroom at their middle school in Florida in 2004. Hernandez was 14 years old at the time of the killing, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. According to news reports, Hernandez confessed to the killing and told investigators that he had planned the attack in advance. So, premeditation. He claimed that he killed Goff because he wanted to know what it felt like to take someone's life. And, we don't have to guess at this one, because he wanted to become a serial offender. So he said it himself. Like I said, we don't have to guess on this one. He would have most definitely continued. This statement sounds so wrong and scary, absolutely, but unfortunately, that is the truth of modern society. And I find that statement, once again, very horrifying and true, in my opinion. I don't know, serial offenders have been around for ever and ever, but maybe in this day and age of 24-hour news cycles, social media, we just hear about them more. So like I said, I don't know if that means that they're happening more frequently now or just because we hear about them constantly on a day-to-day basis. It's like never ending. Next, we have Craig Price. He was 13 years old, and his victims were Rebecca Spencer, Joan Heaton, Jennifer Heaton, and Melissa Heaton. And his crimes were from 1987 through 1989. He committed his first homicide at the age of 13 in Warwick, Rhode Island on the night of July 27th, 1987. He broke into a home that was only 2 houses away from his own. He took a knife from the kitchen and stabbed 24-year-old Rebecca Spencer 58 times. 58 times. Just let that sink in. A little over 2 years later, Price was a 15-year-old freshman in high school when he killed 3 other neighbors on September 1st, 1989. He was high on marijuana and LSD at the time. He stabbed 39-year-old Joan Heaton 57 times, her 10-year-old daughter Jennifer 62 times, and he crushed the skull of Heaton's 7-year-old daughter Melissa and inflicted 30 stab wounds. The stabbings were so brutal that the handles broke off of the multiple knives that he used, and the blades stayed inside the bodies of the victims. This, to me, out of all the ones that we're going to look at, is the most horrifying, the most brutal. And in my opinion, I have no doubt in my mind, once again, that this person, this monster, would have, had he not been caught. And I think I read in another article, he said in his own words, if he hadn't got caught, that, or before he got caught, that he was going to make history. So take that as you will. The scary thing about this is at the time, the brutality of these murders was mostly unknown due to Price's sealed records because he was a minor. And according to law enforcement officials, Price had no remorse when confessing to the crimes. Now, if I am remembering correctly what I read in the articles, his records were sealed and he was not going to be, or his records were sealed. So when he turned 18, he would have been released. But like I said, if I'm remembering correctly, you can go look up this case. Just you can Google his name. He was, can't remember if he was tried as an adult. But anyway, he went to prison, and while he was in prison, he killed another inmate and committed other crimes in there. So that he was sentenced, I believe, to 25 years to life for the crimes they committed while he was in prison. If, like I said, if I remember correctly, this is just a horrifying case, and hopefully, I believe he's still in prison, and hopefully he will never see the light of day again, because he is a very vicious, brutal individual. All right, next we have another female, Jasmine Richardson. She was just 12 years old. Her victims were Mark Richardson and Deborah Richardson and Jacob Richardson, which were her parents and her 8-year-old brother. Like I said, she was only 12 years old when she killed both her parents and her 8-year-old brother. Her parents disapproved of her relationship with a 23-year-old Jeremy Stanky, who claimed to be a 300-year-old werewolf. You can't make this stuff up, people. He was held responsible for brainwashing her to commit the heinous crimes. The murders made her one of the youngest serial offenders in Canada. Several years later, and she's now been referred to as a poster child for rehabilitation. In May of 2016, her sentence was completed and she was released with no court restrictions. And therapists believe she is genuine when she says that she expresses remorse for her actions. I tend to believe that this may be, like they said, a case of brainwashing. She was only 12 years old. This person that she was with, this male, was 23 years old. Evidently, he had lots of problems because he thought he was a werewolf. So in my opinion, I think she was brainwashed. I don't think she would have committed other crimes. I could be wrong. Not, this is just my opinion. But out of all the ones that we've looked at, I think she was I'm not going to say innocent victim because she did participate in the killing of her family, but um, I just don't think if it hadn't been for the influence of her boyfriend at the time, I don't think it would have happened. Like I said, these are all just my opinions. I would love to hear what you think about this case and all the other cases that we're discussing. So please do leave your comment. Just always, all I ask is be respectful of each other, victims, and the victims' families. All right, next we have Mary Bell, and this is a case from the UK. She was 11 years old, and her victims were Martin Brown and Brian Howe, and this took place in 1968. She was convicted of the manslaughter of two young boys in Newcastle upon Tyne in 1968. She was 11 years old, and was sentenced to detention at Her Majesty's pleasure, which it says is a sentence for minors in the UK that is equivalent to life imprisonment. Now, I believe that she did not spend life in prison, that she was released. She was dubbed the Tyneside Strangler based on her strangulation method of killing. Psychiatrists studying her case discovered that she was victim to extensive physical and other abuse from an early age and deemed mentally incapable of standing trial. She went under intense rehabilitation, and a decade later, she was released and had a daughter. She is now living her life in anonymity with her daughter, and her current location is unknown. It is rumored that she went back to Tyneside to live there briefly, and she also stated that the abuse she suffered as a kid is not an excuse for her crimes. So I believe, my opinion, this case, she would not and has not committed any other killings. Could be wrong. I don't know for sure. That's just my opinion. Why she committed these two killings in the first place, who knows? I don't know, but there wasn't really a whole lot of information that I found on her. But like the previous female, I think this was a one-off, in my opinion. All right, and the last one, and the youngest one, and one of the most disturbing ones, is Amardeep Sada. He was 8 years old. His victims were his 6-month-old cousin, 8-month-old sister, and a 6-month-old neighbor. And he committed these crimes in 2006 and 2007. And it says that he is the youngest serial offender to date. And I hate to say that I hope they couldn't get much younger, but anything is possible. Because of his small and frail stature, Sada made sure to kill those under a year old. After the killing of his 8-month-old sister and 6-month-old cousin, he was only caught when he killed the neighbor's 6-month-old. True to the personality traits of most serial offenders, he showed no remorse for his wrongdoings, and he did not comprehend the gravity of what he had done. He was sent to a children's home until he turned 18, and since then, no one knows what's become of him. So, in my opinion, if he's still alive out there, I feel that it is very likely that he has committed other killings. When you start at 8 years old and you kill these very, very young minors, you show no remorse. You don't comprehend that what you have done is wrong. In my opinion, you're going to keep doing it. And you're going to keep doing it because apparently he gets satisfaction from it. He enjoyed it, even at 8 years old. A psychoanalyst diagnosed him as a sadist. In other words, he is a person who derives pleasure from seeing others in physical pain. So, like I said, I truly believe that if he's still out there somewhere, he has most definitely committed more offenses. And that is truly terrifying. He claimed that he killed the infants because he was jealous of the attention they received from his parents. So I'm going to go on the assumption that, like most serial offenders, psychopaths, he was a narcissist, craved attention. His parents were giving attention to these other children and infants. He did not like that, so he took them out of the picture. To me, Amardeep Sada and Craig Price are the two most dangerous and vicious people that were on this list. But definitely let me know what you think. I'll probably have nightmares tonight after going through all this again. It's just very, very scary how young these offenders are, and who knows how many other young offenders are out there that have not been caught yet. If they're not caught, will they keep going and offending? And they may never get caught. It's just a scary thought, but it's things like this that we have to think about, and just try to be safe and keep your eyes open. If you see something, say something. If you know something, say something. Just to keep everybody safe. All right, I think that is the last one. I hope you, I don't want to say enjoyed this, but I hope you found this interesting. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Like I said, comment on it, share it. Any true crime groups you may be in, friends, family that think may be interested in true crime, please do share it. Until next time, please take care of yourselves. Be safe out there. Take care of each other. That is the most important thing that we can do is take care of our fellow ladies, gentlemen, and children. So until next time, have a good week, a good weekend, whatever it may be. I don't know what day it'll be when I upload this. And I will see you next time.